to Brand to Scale. This is a space where I chat with business builders, creatives, and leaders who've taken an idea and turned it into something real. I'm Jess, your host, founder of Alchemy, and today I'm joined by someone whose story is incredibly inspiring. Emma Armstrong is the founder of Empro Group. She's not only built a business from the ground up and launched a mobile app, but also came back from a life-changing moment, which I'm sure we'll get into. So great to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very, very busy woman. Um, can we start by hearing a little bit about you and what Empro is all about?
Oh, yeah, lovely. So, I founded Empro in 2018, left having a proper job. And Empro, I started it because I wanted to be a freelancer and go freelancing. And it's kind of snowballed from there, really. So today we're obviously a group. We've got various assets of our business, and we basically deliver change and transformation in the facilities management industry. It's something I fell into and I absolutely love it. And I'm so glad that I was able to go into the FM industry. So today, we're a group, and I'm really happy, really fulfilled, and I've got a really great business.
For those of us who aren't aware, what is a facilities management industry?
This is the most popular question. When I first started in FM, people are like, "Well, what is that?" And it's still, it's not a career of choice because people don't really know what it is. If you imagine, I don't know, take the BBC as an example. They want to be recording telly or making telly. They don't want to be worried about, are the lights on, are the floors clean, is the canteen stocked? It's all of those bits and pieces. So, facilities management is essentially managing real estate, property, and or facilities. So if you think there's two elements to FM, there's hard and soft services. Hard services is anything that's fixed. So if you took a building, turned it upside down and shook it, everything that stays is hard. Everything that falls out is soft. So cleaning, catering, security, front of house, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, really important actually. Really, really unsung area of industry. I think like if you think about COVID and stuff, key workers, keeping things clean, keeping things on, moving.
Mhm.
But if you think every city in every place in the world has got buildings with assets that need maintaining, it's actually a huge industry, really, really big.
Yeah, so you're allowing people to do their jobs, really, the bits that they need to get done,
Yeah,
so everything's running smoothly in the background.
100%.
Interesting. Okay, so you said you fell into it, so I have got a question on, like, is that something you always wanted to do? So let's go back a bit. So, what was life like growing up? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh God, you're going to laugh at this. So I grew up. My mum and dad. I had the most wonderful childhood. My dad is an engineer by trade, so we were always taking things apart and fixing it. It's probably where I got a kind of an element of wanting to go into FM when I actually figured out what it was. So I grew up on kind of like a semi-farm arrangement. So they've got a small holding with animals and bits and pieces. Only child, so I spent a lot of time with my mum and dad, and my dad's obviously run his own business for God, longer than I care to remember. I think he's been going for like 50 years plus. Um, I think a lot of that entrepreneurialness had rubbed off on me from a young age. Um, and when I was younger, my dad's got pictures of me I used to spend a lot of time with my dad, and he's like very farmy related. So I'd always been like camouflage stuff, going out in fields. And I think when I was younger, I said I wanted to go into the army because I wanted to roll around in mud all day. So I don't know what that means or what that says about me. It has no reflection on what actually happens in the army. But then as I got older, I was kind of went into more like corporate professionalisms, like law, etc. And I think I never really knew what I wanted to do. Some people have a really clear vision, like, I want to do that, and they go for it. And there's a very clear, like, career ladder you can climb. And I never really had a burning, like, this is what I want to do. So I think I kind of, as you go through roles in life, you try something, you think, I don't like that, but I like this bit. And you kind of pursue the bit that you like. And I think that's where I was at. And that's where my career started. And then when I kind of found FM, I was like, I love this. So,
I
yeah,
love them.
never.
If your dad was running his own business and you grew up with that, did he encourage you to go into the entrepreneurial space early on, or did you go the traditional route? Did you go to uni and do all the other normal?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think I saw my mum and dad. So my mum and dad work together. So my mum's like the accountant. She keeps all the pennies. And my dad went and kind of did the salesy bit and the delivery. I saw them work really, really hard. There was no off switch. Like they lived and worked at home every. Like my mum worked from home, so I always, when I was younger, I was like, oh, I don't want that. That's like if you're always on mentality. So when I was always kind of in a corporate role or working in a business which wasn't mine. Um, and like my relatives and my mum and dad's mates would always say, "Gosh, you got to go work on your own," and you really could do. And I never really saw it in myself, but other people did, and encouraged me to go and set up on my own. I think when I was really young, I didn't really have an idea of what I could do or what I could deliver. I didn't have any value proposition then. There wasn't anything that I was good at or niche enough to be able to go and set up. And obviously, it's financially it's quite daunting as well because you think, well, where's my next paycheck going to come from? Everyone's got bills to pay and do that.
Mm.
So yeah, it only came to me a bit later on when I'd worked in facilities and I'd found something that I really, really enjoyed that I was actually really good at. It's that spurred me on to think I could do this for myself as opposed to being in a corporate. So I think I did that when I was 28, 29. When I
28,
left and set up on my own. Yeah.
Was the experience of working for other people good or bad? Did it influence the transition at all?
I mean, I've worked for some incredible people, really, really good that I'm still friends with today. Like we speak quite often. There's people all over the world actually I've worked with that we'll keep in touch with. One guy that I used to work with now lives in Texas, and when I was ill, he sent me some flowers over, and I was in hospital and stuff. So I think I'm really good at building relationships with people and keeping those relationships. I have, however, had some stinkers and had some really awful people that I've had to work for or with. And I think the way I've dealt with that is I try to take the learning, take the positive from every situation. So yeah, it might be crap and you might not be enjoying it and you might be unhappy, but it's not forever. It's only temporary. And take from that what you can learn from. So I learned exactly what I didn't like, how not to behave, the impact of how you treat people and how it makes people feel, versus the good experience that I've had. And I thought actually the way that I've been given autonomy, etc., that kind of motivated me. So I
Mm.
always took learnings from it. But yeah, I've had mixes of different experiences. I've been patted on the head once and told I was a good girl. That was interesting. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I think it's just probably the same for everyone. You get good and bad everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get on to the sort of trigger point, I guess, of that moving into working for yourself. But do you think there's value? Because lots of, business owners I speak to, they go straight into that entrepreneurial life and they don't necessarily have that experience in a corporate environment or working for other people
Yeah,
and get to experience good and bad leadership. Um,
yeah,
I found, same as you, that going through those experiences has helped shape the way that I lead and manage people. And I worry for the people that don't go through that experience if they
yeah.
have that. So do you think that that was a really valuable part that you had to go through to do this?
Yeah, 100%. I think it shapes the way. I mean, I'm not perfect, right? I'm making it out like, oh, I've had these great experiences. I'm perfectly not by any means. I don't think anybody is, but it does give you. It gives you like you learn from it, right? So experiences where I've seen bullying happening at work and the impact on like the individual and the wider team, and I hate things like that now. And I think that's probably who I am as a person. But having seen it, you can pick up on it a little bit more.
Mm.
There's a lady in my team actually. She's a marketing apprentice. She's called Ashton. She's absolutely amazing. And she had a really, really bad experience. And we often talk about it because she knows she's like the difference is like day and night. She's like, it's so nice being in a business that like kind of pours into you. And she's been in an environment that's been horrendous. So again, having that experience has probably shaped the way that she sees things. Which is, you've got to take the positive, right? You can't always be dim and gloom. So I think, yeah, I think it's useful it's a good learning experience at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it gives you that empathy when you are working with people who have been through those experiences. You can't brush it off then because you've been there and you've experienced
Yeah.
it yourself. Yeah. So what pushed you to go for working for yourself? What was the trigger point? What happened?
Well, I started in a company. It doesn't exist anymore. It got bought a part of a takeover, but it's by far my favourite role, the favourite business I've ever worked for, and that's predominantly around the people, and the team and the kind of culture that it was at the time. Um, and I did really well in that business and progressed really quickly, worked with some amazing people, some great leaders, was given lots of opportunity. And I got to a point that I was running really big projects with really big kind of financial I'm trying to think of the right word. There was big P&Ls and there was big budgets. So I think one of the biggest budgets I had to deliver was about 6 million. That was just to spend on the project, not even the services that was going to deliver, which was about 50+ million.
Wow.
So I did that, and I'd actually had a baby, done an MBA, and led this big project all in the same year. So I must have been, I don't know how I did that or why I did that, and I wish I had that same amount of energy. But I got to a point where, as you grow in your career, you kind of like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Because if you're not growing and developing, you feel like you're stagnant. And it got to a point where I thought, well, I don't know what's next now. I've done all of this big stuff. I've worked for all of these different people. I've kind of learned as much. I know the business inside and out. But where am I going to go now? So I thought, well, really, the next move is let's go out and learn more in a different industry or a different client or a different, model, because each business has a different way of doing things. And unless you get that level of exposure, you're
Yeah.
not really going to kind of transform your skill set and get that breadth of experience. So it was that was like, right, if we're going to do this, I delivered a really big project and I thought, right, now's the time to leave on a high, take all of that good stuff and knowledge with me, and then try and, I would love to be a contractor essentially.
Mm,
And I'd worked with lots of contractors before, but obviously delivering big projects. And I always thought, I'm pretty sure I could do that. I'm really sure I could do that. And I've worked with good and bad. I've worked with some people that try and manipulate a situation to get longevity. So they're in term longer, because as a contractor, you live and die by what you work. So the longer the project, the better. So I'd worked with people that didn't necessarily have the right level of integrity. And I always went into it with an intention of delivering good work to the best level of my ability as quickly as I can to get in and out to deliver value for the customer. And I thought, if I do a good job, they might ask me to go back. And
mm,
that's still my mentality today. When I get into a good job, hand it all over. And if I do a good job, maybe they'll call us back, which, I've only thought about this now saying it out loud, but we've never lost a customer. We've grown 50 to 100% year on year. So I think I'm living that value.
mm.
But yeah, that's how it started.
Amazing. I mean, that takes guts, right? All of the baby and
Yeah.
MBA, all of that stuff happening at the same time. Weren't you tired by that point? You're like, I'm just going to stay here and like have a rest. But you just
Yeah, I'm tired now. In my 20s. I was speaking to one of my team yesterday, and she was saying the same thing. Like a couple of years ago, the amount of work she was doing, she was just constantly out of the house. But I think at that time, I kind of I'd had I think I had a bit of a stigma that I wanted to prove. I had and I wanted to prove a point. Like, I think in FM, it's very male dominated, and I wanted to prove like I can do this. And I was really relatively young, really. So I think I wanted to kind of push against that. Oh, maybe you're too young, or you're female or whatever. So I think I kind of took that a little bit too far, and trying to prove my value and prove my worth. So
you
but yeah,
just
I think I was just trying to
yeah,
prove myself a little bit more and kind of I've credentials, credibility in the industry.
yeah, absolutely. A lot going on in your life at that point then.
Yeah, yeah, quite a lot.
Busy
I
time.
don't know. I think I've always been very organised, very structured. So I'd have like a really rigid routine. So I would know at what time I need to get up to get to where and when. And having a child or a baby, you can't have any room. You've got to be organised. So I think
Mm,
at that time, as well, being in a big corporate, it was kind of supported by that structure. So like in the business that I run today, everything's my decision. If it fails, it's my fault, and there's no one there to catch you, and there's no one there to give you advice at night. Whereas when you're in big corporate, you've kind of got the wraparound and the comfort of, okay, well, there is somebody somewhere that's guiding you, and there are other people that care about the result, and it's more of a collective. Whereas when you're on your own, it's more everything's down to you. And I think when I was doing all that at once, I was really eager to prove myself. I wanted to, show everyone I could do it. And also, yeah, I was kind of protected by all of the support in that, well, not protected, but there was that wraparound support.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I look back now and I think I have no idea how I did that or why, but I did. Um, yeah.
amazing. So post that then, we've chatted before and you obviously have had an experience that most people never have to go through and come out of. Can you tell us a bit more about that and, how it's impacted your life now?
Um, yeah, so I'd left in 2018 and I'd been kind of working as a contractor for a couple of years and just getting to the point that I was starting to do a little bit more than just be a one-man band, and I was working with associates delivering projects. Um, I'd actually got married the year before. We were meant to get married the year before that, but COVID happened. Um, so we got on honeymoon in the June, July, and I got back from honeymoon, got back into work, and around August time, I called it the royal visit. So I went to one of the sites where I was working on to it was a go live day. So I went to say hello to everybody, give them a big wave, and then kind of go away and reflect on everything. Um, and on the way home, I started getting pins and needles in my hands. And I thought, oh God, this is a bit weird. Why have I got pins and needles in my hands? And that just seemed to start traveling, like water trickling all over. And in the space of probably 24 hours, I went from being totally normal, absolutely fine, to actually being paralyzed. So I sat on the sofa and I tried to stand up. And when you stand up, you don't actually just go upright, you kind of throw yourself forward. And I just kind of collapsed on the floor because what had happened is the pins and needles was my brain reacting. I must have had some sort of cold or infection come in. And my brain, rather than attack the infection, it attacked my whole nervous system. So the tingling was my nerves starting to not work because my brain wasn't sending signals to them. So even when you breathe, your chest inflates because your muscles. So everything could just stop working. Got to hospital and they were like, "Oh wow, you're really ill. We're going to put you into a coma." They said we're going to give you a spinal tap. Might be MS, might be Guillain-Barré syndrome. We don't know. So we're going to put you on tracheostomies. That's what that is. It's had a pipe
Wow.
keeping me alive. And yeah, I was in a coma for 3 or 4 weeks. And at the time that I came round, um, the illness had peaked and I was completely paralysed. I couldn't speak because I had a tracheostomy. I couldn't move. I couldn't even close my mouth. So you've got jaw muscles that keep your mouth closed. So the pictures from that time are really, they're quite harrowing, really.
Mm.
And yeah, I couldn't move, couldn't speak. So it's like, I think it's called trapped in syndrome. So it's when your brain's fine, you can think, you're awake, you're conscious, but you can't communicate. So yeah, I was like that for probably another 4 or 5 weeks before I started getting treatment. Um, so yeah, it was a interesting experience. Very surreal now when I look back.
Does it feel like
Um,
it happened in another life?
Yeah, it's really. I mean, at the time, it's horrendous because you're sitting there, you're thinking, "Oh my God, what on earth is going to happen?" You think, "Am I going to get better? What's wrong with me?" And you sit there and start to think, "Is this going to be the rest of my life?" At the time, I was like 32, 33. I was like, "Am I going to be like this for the rest of my life?" And what is that going to look like? And it's really, really scary. And it's at those moments that I was thinking, well, if this is it, what what have I achieved and what have I left? What's my legacy? Or, oh, that's really sad if this is it, you know. And think about
Terrifying.
my little boy and everything. And
How old was
yeah,
he at the time?
he was about 6 at the time. So this is about 3 years ago. So I got out of hospital in January 23. I actually just made it home just before Christmas, but when it was kind of everyone was aware it's January 23.
Hmm.
So yeah, I
So
was in
what
hospital.
caused it then? What caused
Mm,
it? What was the yeah, what happened? And is it
I
an
guess
ongoing thing?
no. So the risk of kind of having it again, it's about 5%. So it's really low. Not impossible, but really low. There's actually a chap that I spoke to on the internet last year who had it twice, and he was recovering from his second time. And when you're trying to recover, if people speak to you and motivate you, it makes all the world a difference. So I did some of that last year. Um, but it's essentially it's your brain's reaction. So it's your brain's reaction to anything. So you could have had a surgery, you could have had a cold, you could have had. There was a lady that I know that had this because she ate an out of date sausage, randomly enough. So it's literally a reaction. It's your body's reaction to something. Um, it's meant to be part of autoimmune. So I think I've got some autoimmune deficiencies, but we don't know exactly what. And I'm not conspiracy theories, but there has been a massive spike in Guillain-Barré since the COVID vaccine. So there's been about a 600% increase in it. And it predominantly, the most part of people affected are young women, which is a real shame.
Mm.
Um, there's a lady who had the same thing as me, probably a year before me, And she's actually gone on to now be a physiotherapist and specialise in Guillain-Barré because she was so affected by it. And she's got she used the same level, same kind of criticality as me.
On
But yeah, it's really hard to trace back what it actually is because it could be so many different things.
rare.
Um, yeah.
Logistically, then, you were working for yourself at that time.
Mm.
And as we know, as business owners, work doesn't stop. So how did that work in practice? Because you were in a coma.
Yeah. So my husband will probably tell you the different side of it because I think he was having obviously we just got back from honeymoon and I was like literally off. It's like turned off. There's no one could talk to me. And yeah, I had a couple of people that I was working with, like associates, consultants, like independents. And obviously projects were continuing. So but because we were a lot smaller at that time, everything was dependent on me. So the bank was me. So I'd log in and pay people, do it so on my app. So no one could get into the bank, no one could pay anybody, no one could like intervene at any point. There's no like lasting power of attorney. So no one could say, well, she's incapacitated, I'll take over. But the team, I have to say, like even contractors, they kind of continued as is. My clients were absolutely incredible. There was a couple of people that just went above and beyond anything you'd ever expect from a customer. And yeah, I was still really good. I'd say that a couple of friends now as opposed to anything else and still work with them today. But yeah, everyone around me was just really great and just did their best of what they could. Some of my clients gave my contracts payments instead to keep them going because they were obviously not going to get paid for a period of time. And everyone just clubbed together, really. I couldn't have asked for a better response from both the people we work with and for. My husband was probably a bit stressed because he had to field all these questions and he was like, I've got no idea. But yeah, very lucky that everything kept carrying
I
on.
think that's probably a testament to your character, isn't it? And the people you attract in terms of team and who you work with, that happened. I don't think that's standard procedure, is it, for everyone?
No, because when you do, I mean, you look at business resilience and you look at risk and you have the right insurance, but you never think, oh, what's gonna happen if I go into a coma? Like, that's not a normal scenario to try and plan out.
Yeah.
And yeah, caught quite by surprise, but yeah, it's yeah, touch wood. Everybody was fantastic, and yeah, I don't think that would happen again. Hopefully, but
Yeah, that's not a normal question you ask yourself, is it? What happens if I go into how will I pay people? So what, like practically then, what measures would you advise people to put in place? Because these things can happen.
oh God, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that before. I think. So one of the things we learned from that experience is that we needed to have a more commercial bank set up. So as we were starting to scale, the ability to hand things off. I mean, I'm probably a bit of a control freak, so I was like, I'll keep control of everything. And obviously, I'd never been in that situation before. I never had a need to do anything different. But after that, we decided to move banks. So we moved to a more commercial bank that I could give somebody access, and it'd be like read access, but then they could do like a backs payment, like approved suppliers. So that's something that we do now. And obviously, as we've got bigger, it's not really viable for me to sit and do bank transactions on my app. It's probably not very secure either.
You've
And I
managed to
wouldn't
let
want to.
go of that control then, yeah, and hand that off.
Yeah, I've managed to do that now. Although, yeah, when you go from a one-man band to bigger and bigger and bigger, you do have to let go, and that is sometimes scary. And you can make you a little bit nervous, but I think having the right people makes the difference. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's been a really big thing.
absolutely. Yeah, that whole question around what happens if, I think, needs to probably be asked more, especially for scaling businesses. Definitely. You mentioned earlier about you were in that situation and thinking about you said that'll be a shame if this is it. Like, what have I achieved? And you've achieved quite a lot by that point. So what's going through your head around, like, rather than dwelling on that, it seems that you were going, what am I going to do next when I come out of this?
Yeah, I think one of the things that everybody says to me is how positive I was through the whole process. So I never sat and moped and thought, and I never really complained about it either. I thought, you know what? I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean. I get to watch Netflix all day, every day. I couldn't, the parts of the time I couldn't speak, but when my tracheostomy came out, I couldn't. I actually had gin and tonic in the hospital and I got told off for that quite frequently. But
Good for
it was
you.
good.
You don't blame me at all.
We'll skirt over that. And yeah, I just tried to keep really, really upbeat and focusing on the positive, and it really pushed me to. I'm one of those sorts of people. If somebody says you're not going to do that, I'll be like, hold my drink, move out of my way. I am going to do that, and I took that sort of mentality to it. So I think the recovery side, I probably did it a lot quicker than is normal because I pushed. So I
Mm.
was, rather than waiting for physio, I would be, can I physio? Can I physio? Can I have another physio? Can I have another physio today? And it became a bit of a joke really, because I would always be like ready and waiting, and I wanted to do more and more and more. Because after that, I thought, yeah, I'm not gonna. Not that I didn't think I'd achieved anything, but I thought, oh, there's so much more I could do. I thought I'm capable of doing so much more. Um, and I think when I was in hospital, this is probably slightly contradictory. All my family around me was like, "Are you going to slow down now? Are you going to like, life's too short. Enjoy yourself more.
Mm.
Relax, spend time at home." But I think I've totally gone against that now, and I've done everything to 110%, but I actually really enjoy what I do. Like, I don't want to do anything else. If you said, oh, do you want to go to the shop? I'd rather do this. I would rather do work. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. And for me, it's not really a job. I get to do what I like every day. And I think that's made such a big difference to, people have so much more confidence in people that love what they do and are experts. And
Mm.
um, yeah, I'm just so grateful I had that opportunity in the first place to get into FM, because I don't know what I'd be doing now if I didn't do that.
The universe would have found a way to push you that direction, I think.
Yeah,
Probably
probably,
by the sounds of
probably.
it. Yeah. Do you think that optimism and drive is nature or nurture?
Um, so if I'm being completely honest with you, mental health wise, I've had ups and downs.
Mm.
Um, I think I'll speak about it quite openly because I think it's really healthy too, and people think there's a stigma around it, and there shouldn't be. So, um, I think what I've done in the last 5 to 7 years has changed the way I think about things. So you can look at things negatively, and you can dwell on the bad. And if you do that, you will see negativity and bad things. If you try and see the positive, or try and take something out of it, you will see the positivity in things. And I think there's a close line with being toxic positivity, which is everything's great, even if it's bad. That's probably not a great position to be. But if you can, there's something called fail fast. If you try and do something and you fail, but you're learning and you quicker and get better at it faster,
Mm.
that's a great thing. You're developing, you're actually making progress. Even though you failed, you're making progress. And I think there's a lot. That's the way I try to see things. If I waited for perfection, I used to be a perfectionist, and I would obsess about things probably too much, and I'd want everything to be perfect. But then I'd spend so much time trying to get everything to be perfect that you slow yourself down. It's actually better to move. Just start whatever you're doing, whatever your idea. Starting is the first point, and I think pace and actually physically doing things.
Yeah,
There's more value in that than trying to be perfect, because and it all comes down to mentality and how you think about things.
it does. Yeah. And perfectionism hinders innovation, doesn't it? Quite a lot. If
Yeah,
you're waiting for the perfect time, the perfect product, perfect team, whatever it is, it just
it'll
means
never.
slows
Yeah, never. And I
progress.
think being a business has helped me kind of differentiate from that. So when you're an individual, you self-critique probably quite a lot.
Mm.
Whereas when you're a business, there is never a day when the business is perfect. There will always be, okay, well, what's next? And how do we develop? And did we do that as well as we could, or could we do that better? And everything's developing all the time. And you learn to you're never going to be, things don't stand still. Everything is moving all the time.
Yeah.
And when you think about business, it's easier to think like that. But when you're an individual, it's all on you. Whereas businesses develop because there's multiple facets of it.
Yeah.
And I found that quite comforting to think about things in that way, because it's more of a growth mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. The positivity element is, and you've mentioned you've had peaks and troughs in terms of mental health and how you handled things. Is it your natural state to be that, or you had to teach yourself to reframe things in a certain way?
I'd say there's probably been. I think when I was younger, I was probably. I don't know. It's a really difficult question. I think I've had to. My answer. I have had to teach myself to be that way, but I haven't always been negative prior to that. I think I've had ups and downs, and as I've got older, I've learned to stabilize that.
Yeah.
Um, But I think for example, if something goes wrong and it annoys you, you could spend all of your time thinking about that and trying to fix it, and you'll go down a path and you can spiral. So I've learned that you can do that, but it's not going to get you anywhere. You're just going to go down a path of negativity. If you go, do you know what, that wasn't great, we'll draw a line under it and move on and go and focus on something good.
Mm.
You're going to focus on something that's going to get better, or you're going to focus on something that you're going to build or look forward. And I think for me, it's the difference of looking back and looking forward. Yes, you can look back and it's great to reflect, and it's great to learn, and it's great to adapt. But
Mm.
if you're chasing after negative things because they're annoyed you or because it didn't go well, it's not going to actually get you anywhere. And I think you need what I've learned is focus on the good and go towards the good, because it's just a better route.
It
Because
is about,
doing the opposite
yeah.
isn't going to get you anywhere.
Focus goes where energy flows is the saying, isn't it? And yeah, it's very, very true. Is that trait something that you look for in people you work with, clients and team as well, or is that something you can influence?
Um, I think it's a personality trait, and I think I've probably got a bad habit of assuming everybody thinks like me. I think the way I think is normal, and therefore everyone else thinks that way, and that's not the case.
Mm.
And it's not always obvious. I think sometimes you pick up on it as you get to know an individual, and I've got better at identifying it now. But sometimes somebody will say, "Oh, you can't do that," or they'll be very negative, rather than say, "I'm not sure how to do that, but we're going to figure out how," or "We haven't done that before, but we can do it." And solution. Some people kind of think, pessimistically. Um, and I think when scaling a business, and when you're a small business, it's so important to have people that have got a solution and a growth mindset,
Mm.
and the people that don't have a growth mindset and tell you why you can't do something will just stagnate your growth. And I think I've had to learn that, 'cause nobody teaches you that. Somebody could teach you, but this has been, I've had very little input from anybody else. We've had absolutely zero funding, zero investment. It's all been kind of me, and I've had to learn how to do things well, where things go wrong, different types of styles of management, mentalities.
Mm.
And we're a lot better at that today. But when I started out, I probably wasn't great at identifying the difference.
Yeah. There's definitely a theme that comes through these conversations, and it's especially with really ambitious people who are doing great things, is what you said about always looking forward. What's the next thing? How can we improve? How can we do things better next time? What can we change? So at where you're at now, like, what are the changes that you've made in terms of being able to scale the company to where it's at now? And
Mm.
what are the next things that you're looking at doing? And do you ever give yourself pause and time to reflect and go, actually, I've done loads and I'm really proud of everything I've achieved? Or do you just always look forward?
That's a really good question. So I think when I first started out, the big thing for me was I wanted to do a good job. I wanted to, learn from people around me and experience different things. And we kind of started to collect clients, and the projects got bigger and bigger. And I said, well, I can't do this on my own. What about going and hire some people then? I thought, oh, okay. All right. Okay. So in the early days, it was very much as what I could touch and see, and I'd, do a project with a couple of supports. I think the thing that's enabled us to scale is having a really great network, and also having a really solid foundation to springboard off. So we've got 2/3 businesses. So the recruitment business, we've spent a lot of time on the technology stack and getting that really, really, really good
Mm.
and really well integrated. So at any point where things go into the system, it never leaves, and it's integrated into finance, it's integrated into all the other things that we use. We've got things like AI, we've got lots of tools that make the guys and the girls' jobs really, really easy. Well, not easy, because work isn't always easy, but it facilitates
Mm.
all the stuff that's kind of mundane and you don't want to do, or it's repetitive, so they can have like really good focus on spending quality time with customers. So I think that's really enabled us. You can see now, actually, you've got the foundation, you've got the customers. You just need to kind of pour into it, and the same with the consulting business. Again, having a really good tech stack and having a really good foundation, and kind of delivery models around what you do. The business has really been bootstrapped. So everything I've made, I've put back into the business. I think last year on paper, we had a massive turnover, but we didn't make any money. And that's because everything's gone back into the business to
Mm.
kind of level us out for a load of growth again this year. And we look to double again in size, which is frightening. I don't quite know how I'm doing it, but it's happening. But yeah, that's all around the tech stack and the people that we've got around us. And again, that ethos of just wanting to do a good job and help people grow and get in and get out, and maybe they'll have us back.
Yeah. I definitely want to come on to the people element because that's something I'm super passionate about as well in terms of who you surround yourself with. But it's interesting timing talking about the tech stack and how important that is for growth and how many
Mm.
businesses delay looking and investing in that sort of non-tangible stuff until it's too late and then have problems down the line. So for businesses who are at the point where they are growing and need to get systems and processes in place. Going back to where you were then, what would you say would be a priority right now for them to get nailed and sorted before that big growth stage?
Yeah, I think this falls into people as well. So, systems is absolutely key. So we don't have all processes and procedures around how we do things, but we've got the systems in place that kind of feed the model.
Mm.
Um, so if I had 10 projects, you can kind of figure out the 10 projects, who's working on them, what clients are, what the overall goal is. If that gets any bigger than that, you start to lose track of resource alignment, capabilities, progress, where there are any issues. And there's only so much you can do, like, and keeping your brain at one time. So having the right systems that are going to, I mean, we've just upgraded our CRM. So we've now got all of our projects, all of our client contact details, and everything that we do is in one place and it's in one system. And we've integrated with all the other tools and the things that we have in the business. So anybody at any one time can see everything that's going on. So if anything happens to me,
So important. Yeah.
yeah, it's all there. It's all traceable. It's all stored. It's all managed. Um, and we've probably only nailed that in the last week or so. We used the same system before then, but not to the level that we do now. And it's just having that really slick operating system that that you can divvy bits up. So when you've got projects, right? So there gets to a point that you've got so many that you need to break it out into specialisms. So we've got a team that focuses on relocation and move management, and then we've got a team that focuses on bids, and we've got a team that focuses on mobilisations. They're all projects, but they're all very different. So we've got specialisms in each area. So the more projects they are, the teams grow and expand, and that's how we manage it.
Mm.
But without that operating system, I have no idea how we'd manage that. It would be pure chaos. And using things like AI to help you with, generating information or automating processes or picking up and analysing things like in the system, so it's all there, has been real game changing for us.
Has that been with the support of external help or have you learnt and developed that yourself?
I mean, if you ask any of the team, I think there's probably an argument whether it's chaos or ADHD, but I am constantly thinking about work and I'm constantly Googling things and having an idea. And not that I'm a magpie, but I've looked and trialed. Like, I'll know what I want and what I'm looking for. And I think if I give it to somebody else, they're not thinking the same thing as me. So I'm quite an active participant in the business, is how I describe it. So
Mm.
I'll kind of go off and trial things, and if I think it's good, I'll bring it back to the team and say, "I found this. What do you think?" Sometimes I'll be like, it's not going to work," or sometimes I'll be like, "Actually, that is going to be a massive help," and that we start using it. So, trying to think of a good example. Pressmaster AI is a tool that we've just started using,
Mm.
and that essentially will take anything content wise that we've got and it will issue a press release. It will post it on LinkedIn. It'll post it on our website, and it will create like personal posts for you at the same time to post on personal socials. So having that kind of technology
Mm.
that takes a form of content, breaks it down into various things and pushes it out for you. And you can look at the kind of performance of all of those different things in one place.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, we haven't, it's not live yet because the website's not set up to have it to push to, but things like that, I mean, they're relatively inexpensive. You're talking like 10, 20 quid a month, but the ability that gives you. So Ashton, who's our marketing sales lady, who's amazing, she hasn't got to do that manually now, and she can just pick up and focus on something else. So it's little things like that. I'm just always looking forward. What's going to make it better? How can we do this?
Yeah. Challenge on that front then. If you're, because you've said, and it's fair, no one knows the business as well as you do, knows where you want it to go as well as you do, thinks the way that you do. Is that scalable? Like, what's your plan for the future? Are you always going to be working?
Um, so people often ask me, like, what's your end goal? What you're trying to get to? And I don't really have one. And I do think about it quite a lot. Somebody said to me, "Oh, actually, this year in January, somebody said, can I buy a business?" I was like, "Oh no, you can't buy my business." I was like, "Oh no, like it's my name above the door. It's everything I've been building. It's what I love to do." But then it does start you thinking, like, well, if you scale, is there going to come a point where actually, like, I'm having a great time at the minute, and I'm kind of growing a business, and I'm doing it the way I want to do it, make the decisions, and we're quite agile, and we do things quite quickly. There probably will come a point at some time that I'm like, okay, I've done this now, and I'll be thinking, what's next? What am I going to do next? And I'm running through that at the minute because I don't know what that is. I don't know what that looks like. I think one of the things I'm really interested in is mergers and acquisitions. So whether that's we start doing that as a service, whether that's we look at buying another business, whether that's we look at selling, I don't know. But I think for me, that's my bucket list thing that I've not done that I want to do. But whether that happens or not, we'll see.
I imagine it will. Judging by what you said today, you'll be researching that by 5 p.m. today and know where you're going with it. I have no doubt.
Oh,
No doubt.
yeah. I've tried to slow down, look, because I have these ideas and I run off at 100 mile an hour. Like I hate doing. My mom told me I was a nightmare as a child. She was like, "You always had to be doing something."
Yeah.
So I'm never not thinking. Like by the time I'm starting to finish something I've started, I'm already thinking about what am I going to do next. I'm very like,
is patience an issue?
yes, 100%. I'm like on it yesterday. I'm like, I do it myself because I'll do it now.
Yeah.
But then I end up taking on too much, and then I'm like, I probably shouldn't have said I'm going to do this because there's probably people that can do it better and faster than me anyway. So, I do have a tendency to, not negatively, but I am very pacey. Like, and I think that lends itself to the sorts of projects that we do. So we do projects that need very swift, decisive energy. So I think that's why it probably comes quite well because that's what I'm like as a person. My husband would agree as well that I'm very patient.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I mean, I feel like you have to be like that if you're growing fast and building something great. It's just it has to be an obsession to a point, I think.
Yeah. I think mentally as well, I can, and I probably I've got an element of ADHD, but I can think about multiple things at the same time, and I can run with lots of things. Whereas, some people, my husband's probably a good example of this. He likes to do one thing at a time, and if I say too many things, he's like, "Whoa, there's too much going on here." Whereas I like that the kind of mixture of everything that's happening, which is probably why I like FM because there's always different things happening, and there's so many different streams and parts to it. And I think that's what, the way I think is probably a little bit different.
I love that because I feel the same. I think I'm like you and my husband's like your husband. And I always say you have one person like that and one person like that and they marry each other. That's just always the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect blend. How important was, if at all, focusing on developing the brand and the brand language as you scaled?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm probably quite good at. So if you put me and another version of me next to each other, I think that what's helped the business scale is I'm very, I wouldn't say PR, but I'm good at the kind of shouting about what we do. I think there are lots of people that are probably a lot better than me that do really cool stuff, but they're not great at shouting about it. And I think getting your message out is so important because you could do loads of cool stuff, you could be amazing, but you need to go and tell people.
Yeah.
Somebody said something to me once because I didn't used to be good at that. And I was mentored, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but they said, no one's going to blow your trumpet for you. You need to blow your own trumpet. And that was like a light bulb for me. And I was like, that makes so much sense. Yeah. So I like to celebrate successes. I'm always looking at, right, if we do a project and it goes really well, what are we going to do with that? That is a brilliant output or an outcome. We need to go and do an industry award, or we need to go and do something with that to gain the credibility and that everybody gets the recognition they deserve. So I think I've always been very conscious of building that credibility and that brand and shouting about what we do and showing up and showing people and talking about it. Um, and as we started to kind of do bigger projects and with the app specifically, I thought actually we've got a really good product here. And I've got a way of doing things that I've developed over the years of how I approach projects and how I approach business. And I thought I really want to kind of not protect it, but have something that's more than just a brand. And I thought there's nothing stopping anybody kind of taking what I do and copying it. And that has happened, but it's, each their own. So I did apply for a trademark, I think it's probably last year. So we trademarked Empro so that when we use it, it's like that's our methodology. That's the way we do things. And like the app, that's like the Empro app, and this is what it does. And yeah, I've kind of been conscious about building that. And I think one of the big things that I did that I was so frightened of, I was so nervous. I thought there's so many organisations that in the industry that we're in that are very like vanilla, grey, blue, green, and very kind of neutral tones.
Yeah.
And obviously, the team are. I'm better with diversity now because I took it too far. We did have an all female team, but I wanted to be really like stand out and be different. So our branding's very bold, very colourful, and I did that intentionally because I wanted to be different. But the fear I had in doing that, and I thought I was going to get backlash and be like, "Oh, it's too girly," or "They're just a bunch of girl," all that sort of rhetoric.
Yeah.
I was really conscious of that, but actually it's been so well received, and our stuff you can see a mile off because it's just so different and it's just so bright and colourful, which I think, we probably need more of in the industry. We need people to think differently. We don't want to have everything all the same because that's just status quo. We want difference. We want innovation. So yeah, I've been really conscious about that. Again, I've done some things well. I've learned as I've gone. The example of like we were an all female team. I think I'd had probably my fingers burnt in previous lives, and I'd wanted to build something to prove a point. And now we've kind of I
Yeah.
feel like I've done that, and we're kind of diversifying a little bit more now. But
Nice.
yeah, it's been interesting.
Talk to me more about that then, the all-female team. What was the purpose behind that, and why the shift?
I think I'd had earlier in my career, I'd had a lot of stick or negativity. So because as part of the industry, it's quite technical. It's quite like mechanical, electrical engineering. There's a lot of like technical bits and pieces within the hard services area. And I think there is the wouldn't necessarily say I see a lot of it now, but that's probably the people that I deal with are more open-minded. But there is a lot of, well, you can't be looking after the technical piece because you're a girl. So where's the bloke? So where's the person that understands the technical side? And I think, yeah, I'd had a couple of challenges in kind of that sort of space. And working with sometimes those sorts of arguments, I think I wanted to, again, I was probably had in the back of my mind, not consciously, but subconsciously, I was probably trying to prove a point that actually here we are running a business. We're all female. We're doing a great job.
Yeah.
There's a lady called Kat Parson. She's probably done something similar. She set up she bought a property and she wanted to rebuild it, but she only wanted to use females to prove a point that you can do it. So they had skips, they had builders, they had architects, landscapers, everything. It was an all-female team called All Female Build, I think. And Kat Parsons is like head of diversity. I think she works for Centrica at the minute. Amazing person to follow. And again, that's just it's just proving a point that it can be done, and there are people out there. Yeah, and I've probably moved on a little bit from that now, but I think at the time I probably had a chip on my shoulder or a bug to bear at some point.
Yeah. Well, we all have those, don't we? Yeah. If someone calls me dear in an organization again, I'm just gonna lose my lose my mind. You mentioned it in passing there, but let's talk about the app. So what is it? What inspired it? How did you get the idea to become a reality?
Yeah. So we were doing a project, one of our favourite clients we do quite a lot of work for, and part of the project that we were working on, they had a challenge around how they were going to distribute learning to, it's essentially on contract. So the contract, they had 6 different locations in the UK. They had multiple businesses that were being subcontracted on this contract. So there was about 3 or 4 different organisations operating, delivering service, but all had to maintain this strict KPI regime. There are about 91 KPIs per location. They're slightly different depending on the location that you were in. So we thought, oh God, how are we going to do this? It's like, do you do death by PowerPoint? And do you sit in front of people and train them all the time? But then if you have churn, people leave, people go, it's like, that's going to be just a painful process. We thought about doing concertina cards with all training stuff in, but then cleaners, like, what language is it in? It's going to get tatty and scruffy, and it's not going to be a great image if they've got these scruffy cards that they're flicking through. And when we were solutioning it, we thought, why don't we do it? Could we do this digitally? And then it was all, actually, if we do it digitally, I can't say that word clearly. I thought if we do it like that, can we change the language, and can we track where users are, and how they're perceiving the information, and what are they getting, what are they having challenges with? And one of the team thought, actually, why don't we turn it into a quiz and make it a game? Why don't we turn it into a game? So that was the original idea behind the app. So we delivered that actually really quickly. I don't know how we ended up doing this, but we delivered it within 8 weeks. We built the app, built the training, got through we'd never done an app before. So we had to jump through several hoops of onboarding with the clients. So we can deliver an app for you. Here's all of our processes and policies. So I took all that. One of the girls took delivering all the training, and the other one, the technology side and the developer. And then we put it all together. Yes, 8 weeks we did it.
Incredibly
Deployed it. Yeah, really fast. Multiple languages. Really, really good project. We even did like a reporting back end for the customer. And that was web based. So that was like a web based application. And then we were kind of a couple of months post that project going live. Client loved it. It went out across like 4 organizations, collaboration, on steroids. It was great. And then part of what we do, and part of what happens a lot in the facilities industry, is contracts change hands. So a contract on me from Mighty to ISS, or CBRE to JLM, vice versa. So there becomes a lot of TUPE, which is where you transfer from one business to another as an employee, but all your rights are protected. So your salary, your hours, your pensions, etc. So I thought, actually, one of the big problems I see is people transferring, but it's such a naff process. So depending on your organisation and depending how developed you are, sometimes people are like scanning passports and writing, this is a true likeness, because you have to do right to work as part of onboarding. And sometimes bank details are provided and they're written down and they're wrong, or there's so many things that can go adrift. And I thought, well, we've got this really good platform. If we added a few bits into it, we could make a really, really good application that onboards, does training, does all of those good things. And it's like a change management process. And if you think about TUPE, it's not business as usual onboarding. It's not a new employee that you've interviewed. It's actually a shift, and it's not a normal thing to do. And most HR information systems aren't set up to do TUPE, because it's just it's just not a standard thing. But it happens actually a lot. And research, I know my numbers. I found this really interesting actually. There are 48,000 TUPE transfer processes that happen every single year, and that affects 2.3 million people. So the market, the addressable market is actually phenomenal. It's really, really big. And it doesn't just happen in a facilities environment and a contract change. It's, if you have a merger and acquisition, you'd go through the same process. So we've really invested quite a lot of time and into building out a kind of TUPE specialism for both consulting, for comms, for engagement, and this app that sits alongside it. And every single person I speak to, God, that's such a good idea. I don't know why everyone else thought that was one. I'm not going to know. Why are we not using all the technology to our advantage? Why has no one done that? So it's something I'm really proud of. It's something that's developed, and we've packaged up. We've got lots of intel in it, and it's going really well. I'm really proud of the team, and the clients that we're working with that have got it have seen such an uptick in kind of engagement. And they get so much more out of the conversations because they're going through a process that's supported and that they can see that they've been invested in. So it's gone really well.
So what's the plan with that then? Is that to resell it, license, resell?
Yeah. So what we've so I spent, again, last year, everything we made, I reinvested in that. So it was a big commitment. I thought, if this flops, I've just lost everything I've earned for the last year. But I was so convinced that it's such a good idea. So what it is now, it's a tool that we sell. So we package it up as a solution. We sell it to clients as a one-off fee to onboard and brand it. And then not a per user, because I didn't want it to become, oh, we'll give it to that person or that person. I said, use it as much as you want. There are different levels. There you go. Because it's, for me, I want it to be used because I believe in the process and it being a better experience.
Yeah.
And then there's like back-end reporting that they can log into and see everything. So there was somebody I spoke to about AI and what we could do with that data with AI and how you could kind of draw insights from it. So I think there's probably a whole heap of development that's going to follow in like probably 2026 or back end of this year. But again, I don't really know where it's going to go. I'm quite excited. I'm like, because this could be the start of something really great. It might, be useful for a period of time, and then I don't know. But yeah, I need to sort my strategy out. But it's just an idea that happened, and I've believed in it that much. We've invested in it, and yeah, we're just seeing where it goes.
I love that. That's incredibly ambitious and risky.
Yeah, really risky, really risky. Sometimes there have been times when I've thought, oh God, have I done the right thing here? And there's been moments that I thought, oh, this isn't gonna work, or no one's gonna be interested. But when I go out and I see people doing transfers or doing mobilizations and they're not, I just think it's such a sensible thing to do. Like we've even put things in like uniform ordering. So if you're somebody that's moving business, you're an engineer, you can do all your uniform ordering in it. Or if you're cleaner, you can just do everything in one place. I'm like, this just makes sense to me. So yeah.
Do you think, as an entrepreneur, business owner, leader, that you need to have a healthy attitude to risk to be able to move things forward?
Yeah. So there's a lady, I can't remember what her name is. I think it's Jodie Sanchez. I think that's her name. She's off Instagram. One of the things she says about people that are successful and not successful, it's your ability to do things quickly. So two people could have the same idea. The one that delivers it the fastest will be the more successful one because they'll get to market faster and they'll develop faster.
Yeah.
So I think pace is really, really important.
Yeah.
But no risk, no reward. No, and I've made investments in the past. Some have gone well, some have gone not well. But if you don't try, you're never going to know. And all the people that have been successful, it's never a guaranteed 100%. This is what's going to happen. It never is. And I think you've got to take that risk.
Yeah.
It's got to be calculated risk. It's got to be sensible. I mean, you don't want to kind of just set things on fire. But I think that one, the app particularly it's been a passion project. And yeah, it's always been a risk. And there's been points where, last year I invested in it and there was, cash flow wise, it took quite a lot out of the business for quite a long time before seeing any return. Again, it's just something that I just think is such a good idea.
Yeah.
That it just made sense for me. And I thought if I can, somebody else is just going to do it then.
Yeah, someone else will get there before you. It sounds like it goes back to that, what's next thing, doesn't it? Like what can we do next? How can we improve next? What can we do to make, systems, processes, businesses better for everyone? Which makes total sense. Being able to, and also enjoying what you do, because you said that as well, you love what you do. So it's not a job, it's a passion. How do you manage that when you are growing a team? Because, by default, you're hiring people, they are just not going to be in it as much as you are because it's your thing, it's your baby.
Yeah.
But you can bring people along for the ride if you communicate the vision and values well enough and inspire them to come along for the journey. But lots of business leaders, entrepreneurs don't do that at all, don't communicate enough about why they're doing what they're doing, and then they lose good people along the way. So you've mentioned about loving who you work with and the team you work with, great, and the clients as well. So how has that been an accident, or have you purposely set out to only work with great people that you enjoy working?
I think the team I've got now, there are people in the team that, they'll have good days and bad days. And I'll be like, look, I've got you back 110%. Everyone's going to have a bad day. Like, I've got you. And I think there are members of the team that are so loyal. Like, if you cut them open, they believe the business. And I have so much respect for that because that is so hard to come by.
Yeah.
And I think there are other people and other types of mindset that it's a 9 to 5 and they get paid and they go home. And that's absolutely fine because the world is majority of people in the world like that, and businesses need people that do that. But I think when you're such a small business, and there is so much at risk, because I've got there's a lot of risk in this business, and it wouldn't take a lot for us to have a wobble. And I think having people that are so staunchly loyal and passionate about what they do and are bought into the way that you do things is really important. And I'm really confident everyone we've got in the business today has that. I haven't always had that, and I haven't always recognised that. And that has probably been one of my biggest failures or challenges, in that I've not always got it right. And I think one of the things I've struggled with the most is I am very positive. I want to G everyone up and say, look, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is the vision. And I try and motivate people, but then I become too close and I become too friendly, that when I have to then switch hats and be like, this isn't great, it's such a hard conversation to have, because I've been this happy, motivating person. That feels for individuals that it hurts more because of the challenge, like having to switch the conversation.
Mm.
And I think one of the things I reflected on is probably I'm a great leader and I'm a great visionary, but I'm not a good manager. I'm a terrible manager. And actually, there are people that are better at managing than me. And I think I'm great at talking about the business, thinking about what's next, looking forward, doing all that good stuff. Um, and yeah, the decisions that I've made really recently have been to bring in people that I can go off and do that bit, because that's what I'm good at. And no one's going to talk about the business like I will. Um, and then hand over to people that are actually better at the doing and the better at the managing, that haven't got that level of probably emotional investment, because that's the bit, as a leader and a founder, you will find the most challenging, because business is only good as the people you've got around them. You need to motivate your team, but you also need to be able to have those difficult conversations. And that's something that I've really struggled with. So I've learned that actually lean on your strengths, do what you're good at, what you're not good at, bring people in to support you, because if I'd have carried on managing that way, I would have just ended up burning people. And that's not great. And that's not my kind of the way that I like to do things. So I've now surrounded myself with people that have kind of got that flex, that can, so that doesn't become a future issue.
Yeah. That's so important, isn't it? Recognizing the bits that you're good at and the bits that you're bad at, and bringing people who are better than you
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful message there, definitely. I'm assuming you still have a fair hand in or control over recruitment and who you bring in. So yeah. So how do you, what is that process? Like, how do you make sure that that person's got the right values, skills, whatever it is to succeed with you?
Yeah, I think I'm probably not the great person to ask this question to, because I judge people on, can I work with you? Do I want to spend time with you? Could I go to the pub with you? And am I going to enjoy working with you? Because I think you spend a lot of time at work. And again, you need people that have got that right mentality, that are going to, the idea I was speaking about earlier, she's called Holly. She's a great example of our business and what we stand for. And for me, that's more around judgment, as opposed to talking to somebody about competencies and how would you behave in this situation, because somebody can give a great interview and they can talk the talk, but can they actually deliver? And sometimes that's quite hard to figure out. And I think businesses are probably going to, one of the things I've looked at as a business owner is what you do is you think about your growth and where that's coming from, and you think about the people that support that. But what's going on with what Labour are suggesting with workplace transformation, so changing the legalities around, you've got rights from day one and all of that good stuff. That's going to change the way people approach recruitment and approach, I think, just workforce management in general. So for me, I'm looking at, actually, do we want, there's an element, we want a core team that are the people that you cut them open, they'll be the business, but then anything else we'll probably use either subcontractors or associates, because there's always going to be that element of risk. And when you're a small business, that's really hard to be able to shoulder that risk all of the time. So I think one of the biggest things for me is actually, what does the workforce of the future look like? Because if things go as planned, that's going to change the working world for everybody in the UK. So yeah, I'm probably having really, really strict, like, kind of probation periods and what good looks like is probably going to be really key. Have I done that well in the past? Probably not. Again, because I judge people on how I perceive them and if I want to work with them, which might not be the right thing. Just to caveat anyone listening, I'm not suggesting you do that. Um, yeah, for me, it's more about fit and culture and, you know, if we were all in the trenches and something went wrong, are you going to be there with us or are you going to be off?
Have you got my back if something goes
Yeah, it's integrity. Loyalty is a massive thing for me. Massive, massive, massive thing. If I trust somebody, I
wrong?
can forgo anything else. If I can't trust somebody, I don't want to work with them.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, yeah, as soon as that's gone, I'm out. It's not.
I think
So,
that's great advice. And it has to work both ways as well, doesn't it?
yeah,
They need to trust you. And there's lots of, the recruitment is a challenge for a lot of businesses at the moment. And some of the, interviews that I've been part of, different businesses or seen their recruitment process, some of it is very one way, like this is what we need from you rather than, this is who we are. Do you feel like you could, be loyal to a business like this or work with us? And I think that, yeah, it's definitely a two-way street, 100%. With, you've mentioned networks earlier and, running a business, especially the way you've done it, family, all the challenges you've been through can be quite a lonely place and lots of decisions. You're very fast paced, lots of stuff going on. Do you have someone that you go to for support, to offload onto, a mentor, like whatever you want to call it? Do you have someone like that?
I have had at times, but I think it's really difficult to have somebody that's sat at the side that doesn't necessarily understand all the day to day because it's quite difficult because you're only going to get one lens really.
Mm.
And not knowing the people involved is again probably quite challenging. I think the person I probably take the most, I'll seek the most solace in is probably my husband. So he knows good days, bad days, and everything in between, and he's probably one of my biggest supporters. And I do run a lot past him for what do you think about this? I mean, again, we're like yin and yang. He is where I'm very positive and forgiving and that side. He's probably more ruthless as a business person. And that's his style. And if I think, am I being too soft or am I being weak? Because I think, be kind can by some people be seen as a area of weakness. I can kind of take steer from him and he's like, no, you need to bite back a little bit here, or actually you need to, he's a really great, I won't say he's a mentor, but he's a really great reference point.
Mm.
And he's actually joined a business a couple of weeks ago. So he's going to be leading the recruitment arm because he's been doing that for, God, 20 odd years, always for other people, always building, other people. So
Wow.
the two of us together, the networks that we have and the way that we operate, I mean, he's an animal at his job. He's amazing. I've never seen anyone do better. So the two of us coming together is probably quite frightening, I would think. But yeah, we're really excited by that as well. And equally, it's great to have somebody that's,
Mm.
I'm married to him, so I know he's got my best interests, or should have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I love that. I mean, I myself and my husband run the business together as well. So, and we've done that for a good 14 years now as well. So I can appreciate the complexities, but also amazing support that comes with that because you can have the conversations that you wouldn't necessarily be able to have with
yeah.
everyone else. And as a woman building a business from scratch, how important is it? I think we're probably going off topic a little bit, but I'm interested. How important is it having the right partner at home to be able to do this and have a family?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. And do you know what? Really early in my career, when I was probably before I even had Oscar, somebody said to me, like, your partner will make a difference in your entire, like, who you choose to spend your life with will impact your entire life. Like, who you choose to, that's my person. Um, and the lovely thing about Martin is, if I need to be somewhere, he's like, it's fine. I'll deal with everything at home. I got it. You go. You do what you need to do. I mean, there's swings and roundabouts, right? When he's been employed and he's worked for somebody else, it's worked both ways.
Mm.
But I think, the lovely thing now is that we can work around each other. So my dad's been incredibly poorly. He's had multiple strokes, and I've wanted to be more around for him and my mum. And now that we're working together, we can have the flexibility to say, I'm going to go and see my mum or my dad, or, Martin's gone somewhere and he's popped in on the way home. And just that ability to do that means so much more. And it just gives you that element of, closeness. And, um, when I set up a business in 2018, I remember doing it. I was sat in my old house on the living room floor trying to figure out what we were going to name the business. And somebody said to me, like, you'll never be able to be a contractor because you're a mum. You're like, it's too hard. Like, you just should be happy with what you got. Focus on being a mum. Never be able to be a contractor. You need to be on site. You need to be up early. You need to be there late. And that was another hold my drink moment. Like, don't tell me what I can and can't do. And again, trying to prove wrong, like I can do that. I take things like the nth degree. Um, and yeah, if I wasn't with Martin and if I didn't have his support, I probably wouldn't have ever been able to do that.
Mm,
But it's because I did that I knew that I could. And that's made all the difference, really.
that's brilliant. I think it's such an important conversation to have as well early on if you're getting into a relationship, or you're thinking of starting something new. Like, have those open conversations. If I need to be here, we need support at home, or this is how this needs to work, and really be on the same page. So important, so important.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit like you on that front. There was lots of, and I almost welcome them now. Oh, are you sure you want to do that? Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. Or, are you sure that's not taking on too much? And I'm like, hold my beer. We'll have another conversation in a few
Yeah.
minutes when I've sorted it out. But I almost welcome those now. I'm at the point
Yeah.
now where I'm waiting for the next thing. Oh, you wouldn't be able to do that, and I'll be like, amazing. That gives me something.
Yeah. Yeah. The worst thing you do is tell me no. The
Yeah,
worst thing.
yeah, I love.
I find that quite exciting. I like quite endearing. I think it's a good character trait to have.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. What would you say to someone who's got the inklings of a really great idea, or they really want to make the leap to go and work for themselves? Maybe they're in corporate now and they've got that fear at the moment.
Um, you've got to have conviction. You've got to have conviction in yourself, because if you haven't got conviction, no one else is going to have. You've got to be, I think, throw yourself out there. I think the way that I see the future of work going, it's going to go that way. I think we've just covered that. I think actually contracting opportunities and being one person band is going to be so much more. The future of work is so much more flexible. And even things like the public sector procurement rules, if you look at how they're changing or have changed, the public sector are looking to use more smaller local suppliers because it's better for social impact and social value.
Yeah.
It literally couldn't be a better time to do that. I think you've also got to think about yourself, and you've got to think about, you've probably got to have 3 months cash in the bank. So if you have a slow month or you don't get work when you need it, that you've got that contingency. If you've got that contingency, just do it. You won't regret trying. You'll regret not knowing. And the amount of people that I speak to that I have the same conversation with. We were at the workplace event a couple of weeks ago, and somebody was saying, I'm really concerned. I said, come and chat to me and I'll tell you what I did, how I did it, what I did right, what I did wrong. I said, just do it, just try. And I do offer a lot. I probably give quite a lot of my time away FOC, just talking people through. I'm like, it can be scary. I'm like, but it's not difficult. Once you've done it, you're like, oh, that was easy. I'm like, it's just a fear of the unknown. If somebody can hold your hand and make it feel a bit more comfortable, I'm happy to be that person for people, because everybody needs a hand up at some point.
Yeah.
I've had it. And
Yeah,
it's nice to
hand
give
up,
back.
a bit of a push, bit of advice to give you the confidence to do it. Yeah, it's really, really important. I think that I think people also forget that you can change your mind as well. Just try, and if it doesn't work, there'll be other options. You can go backwards. Nothing needs to be forever. And I think sometimes people think, oh my God, that's permanent. That's if I do that, I'm stuck with that decision. And it's
No,
just not the case.
everything in life is temporary. I like to think about that, because if you're going through a difficult time, you won't always be difficult. It will change. Things will get better. Same when it's good. Don't be complacent. It won't always be good. You will have hard times. Everything in life is temporary. It's never consistent. So if you think like that, then you can do something. If you're doing it's not for you, you're not failed. You've tried something. You've said, yeah, I've had a go. I've done that. But I actually prefer this.
Yeah.
Again, it's your mindset and how you perceive things. If you think you're a failure, you'll be a failure. If you think, actually, I've tried it, I don't brave, I don't like it, I've gone back to doing what suits me. It's a
Yeah.
different message.
Yeah. And own it as well, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
If you say it, no one can critique you for it. If you're like, "Do you know what?" And I'm the biggest advocate in saying, "Do you know what? I got that wrong." And I say it to the team all the time. If I've got something wrong, I will say, "I'm so sorry. That's my fault. I got it wrong." And I think people respect that more than you trying to BS your way through something and just it's just people see straight through it. Just own it.
yeah. Yeah. 100%. Really good message. If you could go back to 2018, then what advice would you give yourself with everything, all the knowledge you have now?
Oh, that's a good question. When I first started, I thought, "Oh my God, is anybody going to want to pay my invoices? Is anybody going to want to work with me?" So I'd probably say have confidence, have conviction, because there's lots of business out there, and there are lots of lovely people to work with.
Mm.
And learn to spot a bad egg. Intuition. Don't ignore your gut feel. Your gut feels right
Yeah.
all the time, every time.
Always.
Definitely just start with a commercial bank. Don't do what I do and go for a challenger, because they're just not. You'll grow out of it. Just go to a commercial bank. It's much easier. Um, find your people. Find your people and take them with you. So, everyone in the team at the minute are just great. I've got my best friend that works with me, my best friends in the business. I've got my husband, and I've got the rest of the team that I would consider like the really good group of people. I think you've got to find your tribe. Once you've got them, you'll know.
Yeah.
If you don't think you've got that person, they're not that person.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm personal question for me because I'm curious because I've heard you say a lot of things that I've also been reading about recently. So what books would you recommend currently? What are you reading that's really helping you get through
Oh,
this?
do you know what? That's a really good. You're not going to expect this answer. So I tend to not read books. I
Okay.
buy books because I want to read them, but I don't read them, and
Yeah.
it's a really bad habit that I've got. And I think I don't know, again, if it's the way my mind works. I struggle to sit still and relax.
Yeah.
I don't know what relaxing is. I'm like doing stuff all the time. It goes back to my mum said I was a pain in the ass as a child because I was actually doing something. I think that's probably why they only had one. They were like, "She's enough." Um, so there are a couple of books I've bought that I really want to read that I've heard amazing things about. One's called Building a Story Brand,
Mm,
and it's all about building a brand with a story behind it. So
nice.
for me, I'm like, that's going to be such a good book, and I really need to read it, and I just haven't.
Yeah.
There is another one that's called Subscribed, and it's about how you build a business where people want to work with you and get more inbound than you have to do outbound.
Yeah.
So at the minute, everything we get as a business is inbound because of the way I push myself out on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Again, I think there's probably some stuff in there that I need to know that would really help, and I really want to read it. Um, I think the only book I've ever read is called Monkey Paradox,
Oh
and
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
That's great.
it's about how your brain works. You've got a piece here and two pieces, and how the brain reacts with different information. So when you have an emotional reaction, it's one side of your brain, and actually you need to let that happen. The other bit kicks in, and then you'll have a reasonable response. But if you let that part of the brain take over, you'll just erupt. And
Yeah.
I found that really useful. And again, around mentality and how you perceive things, it's always
Yeah.
better to sleep on something. If I respond straight away to something that's made me trigger, it's always worse than when if I would have left it overnight, because you come back to it, it's not.
Mm,
And
yeah.
again, with the mental health and stuff, I think it's understanding that and seeing that in people or how they're reacting, and understanding that that's what part of the brain it's coming from. I think it's
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah, it's the chimp paradox. I've got that here and also
That's it.
oversubscribed, I think is up here.
Oh, have
Yeah,
you? You got it? Have you read it?
yeah, they're both great. I'm similar to you this, so I've got to audiobook it when I'm out doing something or walking because I just can't sit still for that.
Yeah, I think I'm a pictures person. I'll read a magazine and look at stuff. If it's text, I'm like, oh no, I'm like an instant person. I'm like, I want it now and I want to see.
And you
I think
now.
if you tell me to sit and read, I'll probably start twitching or something. It's
But it
just,
takes me a while to get through them as well because I'll get some nugget of wisdom from it and I'll want to implement it then. So then
yeah,
stop.
you're like, oh, right, read that.
Yeah, and then I'm like, right, I've got to put that into practice now, and then I'll read the next chapter once that bit's done. So it's yeah, it's an impatience thing. But yeah, brilliant, both brilliant books. And I think you've highlighted a great point there. I think it's important, I think, for business owners, whatever you do, well, everyone really, everyone who wants to achieve anything in life and, make and improve on themselves and make them better is to understand how the brain works. And I think that's been something that I've learned over the last few years. Like that impulse thing that's one of the biggest learnings I've had to do, is not to react on my first impulse, because I've got myself into trouble so many times doing that.
Same.
Yeah, so many times, like, shut up. Like my chip brain going like full throttle, and I've got in trouble for it. And learning to just pause and go, okay, is that my emotional brain or is that my logical? And then really working it out. But I only got to that point by, reading and understanding these things and learning. I think curiosity plays a huge part in personal development, being able
And
to
I think
do it.
if you react, sometimes when I've regretted something, it's been because you've gone too soon. I thought, oh, I probably didn't play that very well. Or you say something, I wish I hadn't said it like that. And if you've got the time to think it through, then how messages are delivered it's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I find it quite interesting. I mean, it's probably beyond my comprehension, some of it. It's very clever. But yeah, that's a book that I found really, really useful. It's probably one of the only ones. I read Angela's Ashes as well when I was really young. I don't know why. There's only 2 books I've ever properly read other than uni. I know, yeah. Of all the books to read, that's probably why I didn't read any more books. I'm probably scarred after reading that.
Yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense. Oh, yeah, learning and it's so important. And I think we probably need to put more time in our diaries for that, to understand why we do things and how we think. What's next for you then? What ideas are you dreaming up now? What's the next plan?
Well, immediately next is a cup of tea, I think. But after that, so last year was explosive growth. So we grew really quickly. So we did 595 turnover in 2023 and we did 1.3 last year. So that's big growth. This year for me, it's all about how we deliver and delivering up. So like, I'm not bothered about the growth element. I want to do things really, really well.
Nice.
I then think, what's next for me, if I'm being honest, what's on my radar is into Europe, into the US. I want to do market entry. So Emma Elsie that works for me, she is amazing. We've just started ILM level 7 in strategy for her. So we're going to start to look at actually market entry and how we're going to do that. And growing the technology business, getting quite a few deployments out with that and AI and how that's going to impact and developing like some really slick insights. Merger and acquisition at some point, got to do one of them. It's my bucket list. Beyond that, don't know. I've got a planning horizon. Those are my things I want to do.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like plenty to me.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah. Those are the things I want to do. I think after that, I don't know. There's a lady that I follow. I can't remember her name now off the top of my head. She's built and sold several businesses. She's got blonde, short, curly hair with the stripe pink in, and she's doing a business at the minute called The Grafter, and that is about building, scaling, and exiting businesses.
Nice.
So I find her really, really interesting to follow. But I can see there'll be a point that I'll be like, well, I've done this. Yeah. What's next? And I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know what that is. But I'm not naive enough to say, no, I'm going to do this forever, because I don't think that's realistic. I think there'll be a drive in me somewhere to do something else. I quite fancy doing a bit of property. Maybe we'll see. Spending some time with my boy and just traveling the world as well. I love holidays. Love a good holiday. So I've got a little mini human that I want to go and see the world with. So I'm sure that'll play in somewhere as well.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna bring it back to the alchemy theme to finish off as always, because it just resonates so much with me. We are creating something from nothing, and I think that's brave and magical. If you had a personal alchemy formula for success, what would the main ingredient be for you?
Oh, I think so. Based on everything we said, you've got to be resilient. You've got to be resilient. You'll have good days, bad days. You've got to learn to chop through that. I think pace, so resilience, pace, and don't want to say confidence, maybe determination. You've got to be able to have conviction in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably an element of confidence and determination. So resilience, conviction, and pace.
Amazing.
I think if you've got those things, or if you worked to get those things,
Yeah.
you'd probably be quite unstoppable.
Unstoppable. Great word.
Mm.
Great word.
Yeah.
I love that.
Don't let somebody tell you can't do something. Hold my drink.
I love that. Hold my beer and watch me. I love that.
Yeah,
Love
yeah. I like that say because it makes people think. You're like, okay, because so one of the things. This is where this is really important. When I was in hospital,
that. Mm.
paralysed, still had my tracheostomy in, couldn't move. They'd done tests, sent electrical signals up and down my body. Doctor came in, totally on my own. Really sorry, the test hasn't come back with great feedback. Looks like you're going to be paralysed from the legs down for the rest of your life.
Oh my God.
Really sorry. I was still paralysed, crying my eyes out, couldn't even wipe my own tears because I couldn't move my arm. And I think I cried for a good 20 minutes, half an hour, and then I thought, sod this. That's not accepting that. And I don't know if you've ever seen the film Matilda when she looks at stuff really hard. I just kept looking at my toes. I was like, you will move. And yeah, after a bit, I did start to wiggle. And there's another hold my drink. It's don't. I could have quite easily gone, okay, then fine, and sat there and not tried.
Mm.
So don't tell you what you can and can't do.
That's incredible. I feel like I should write a book.
Yeah, I want to do a TED talk. I know that sounds really like, oh, do you want like
Do
think
it.
a lot of myself? I really want to do a TED talk on like resilience and mental,
Yeah.
like mental grit. I probably need a bit of coaching to get there because I've never done a TED talk before. But yeah, I'd love to do one to inspire people of like confidence and
I love
not accepting what people say. If it's only their opinion, it's not reality.
Oh, you've got some killer quotes coming out of this. And I love it. I love it. Like, I think we've
Mm.
probably got loads there. But I wonder because I did some TED Talk coaching.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I did a little 6 months. I think it was like a 6 months program with a company, and then we finished doing like a fake TED Talk in London, and just did it with the entire team as a practice, and then they helped you
Yeah.
out and apply for the talks.
Yeah, I really want to do. I think that'd be in my bucket list. That's probably on there somewhere. Like do a TED talk.
Yeah,
But I could probably do. At the minute, it'd be like mentality, resilience, and stuff. Like the amount of stress I go through at one, and you'll never know. I think I'm allergic to it now because I think I'm not dead. What else could happen? Um, but yeah, right, I think I could do. And I think in the future, I probably want to do one like a business entrepreneurship, growing a scale. I'd want to do one on
yeah,
what it takes to do that. And
be great. I can do an intro if you like to the.
oh, I would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's great. He really helped me. I did apply for a couple of TED Talks and I got through to the first round of interviews, but to be honest, I bottled it. I
oh,
bottled.
did you?
Yeah, so I stopped applying, and also it was at the time we were closing the first business as well, so I was going through a bit of an emotional.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
something that I've always wanted to get back in, but it was a great program. So yeah, I'm happy to do an intro and then see how far you get there.
I think it's really interesting when people, we're talking about a failure and like you need to, it's how you perceive it and actually it can help you grow. I can't remember, is it who's the lady that runs Clout? Or is it somebody else that's got a business and actually they had a business and it failed and they'd learned so much from that and where they are now, it's actually better for the long run because you learn, having been through that situation, it makes you more rounded.
Yeah,
I think it's really to have that. It's really important because if not, you've not experienced that and you don't know.
exactly.
And
Yeah, I think that's where I'm coming out of now. I've got to the point now where I was like, because I've met so many business owners who have gone through very similar things. So actually, it wasn't special, which has been helpful to realize.
yeah,
It wasn't a special
mm,
situation. It was just something that happened, and then you've got to pull yourself out of it. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so yeah, it's been an interesting experience. But yeah, I'll put that on my notes and I'll do an intro.
One thing that happened to me last year, which I don't really talk about too much, but my dad had like two strokes. So he had a bleed on the brain and a blood clot. He's not the same now, and he's probably on a downward spiral from that. So that was in October. I also, we were talking about people having the right people. I had a finance manager, and because we grew so quickly and we got two businesses, I think it just got too much for her. And what we found that she'd been double counting invoices in both systems. So the numbers that I said are the actual numbers, but when they're on paper, they looked much higher. And I was like, oh, wow. And then we would obviously ended up paying the VAT twice because
Oh,
it was being. So we got into a really shit situation last year, and we were managing cash flow daily. And Emma Elsie, who's now my business manager, if it wasn't for her, the business would have gone bust 100%. And then I had people that, when I said you want people that are loyal, that you cut them open and they're you, because I was going through so much challenges, I had to not be the nice fluffy person. It's like, no, this has got to work and it's got to be now. And I had like 3 or 4 people exit and in quite quick succession. And that was so difficult to get through. But I don't put that out there because it's a bit of a sad story. But that the pressure that you have as a business owner. I'm not trying to keep my business afloat. I've got massive cash flow issues. I've got somebody that's fucked up that we've got rid of, and then it's like, how do I invoice? And then my dad's obviously ill. My only child, my mum. Yeah, it was horrendous last year.
wow. Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? And I think a lot of the attitude sometimes is, oh, you're so lucky to run your own business. You can manage your own time how you want and in your own. It's like, no,
No, I get to choose which 70 hours a week I work.
yeah. And I don't have one boss. I have like loads because they're all
Yeah,
clients.
clients
Yeah,
that all want to speak to me because they're like, no, we don't want to speak to the minions. We want you. And you're like, oh,
exactly.
for fuck's sake.
Yeah, yeah. So true. So true. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Brand Scale. Look out for another episode dropping very, very soon.